You felt it your whole life. That sense of not quite belonging anywhere. Of seeing through systems that everyone around you simply accepted. Of carrying something you couldn't name, but could never ignore. You were called too sensitive. Too intense. Too difficult. And for decades you carried that as if it were a flaw. It isn't. In 1944, Edgar Cayce described exactly who you are. He said that the souls arriving between 1957 and 1977 would not be ordinary souls. They would be the oldest. The most tested. The most necessary. And that your moment of activation would be 2026. Don't leave. If this has already resonated with you, hit that like now. Share it with someone born in that window. And subscribe, because this channel goes deep where most don't. Cayce recorded something about the structure of the soul that explains everything you felt. He said, "The family is merely a river through which the soul flows. And then, you have inherited more from yourself than from your family." These two sentences change everything. Because they mean you didn't end up in this family by accident. You chose this river because it had what you needed to cross. Cayce described souls who incarnate as translators, consciousnesses that need to speak two languages simultaneously. The old and the new. The material and the spiritual. What was and what is coming. You never quite fit into one side because it wasn't your role to belong to one side. Your role was to connect the two. That's why you've always seen the truth in opposing perspectives. Why you frustrate people who want you to pick a side. Why you've never quite belonged anywhere. Cayce said this isn't indecision. It's architecture. You were built for the space between worlds, because that is exactly where transformation happens. Here is the part that will hurt. And also the part that will set you free. Cayce said something that few people quote. Destiny, or karma, depends on what the soul has done with what it has become conscious of. And then, karma is finding oneself. It's not punishment. It's a meeting. Now, think about your family. The patterns that existed before you arrived. The anger passed down from father to son. The silence no one broke. The cycle everyone repeated without realizing it. Cayce revealed that the oldest souls volunteer to enter trapped lineages, not to suffer, but to be the breaking point. You were the one who broke the cycle. You were the one who said no when everyone else said yes. The one who stopped what had lasted for decades. The one who chose differently when you could have repeated it. And that work came at a high cost. It cost you relationships. It cost you your health. It cost you years of not understanding why your life was so difficult while others seemed to move forward effortlessly. But Cayce said something that needs to be said out loud. What we do to our neighbor, we do to our Creator. Every pattern you broke in your lineage didn't just heal you. It healed those who came before. And it set free those who will come after. I need to stop here. Because I want to ask you for something specific. Go to the comments now. And write a line. What was the pattern you broke in your family? It can be a word. It can be a phrase. It's not for me. It's to create a collective healing map. Because when you see other people writing the same thing as you, you understand that what you carried wasn't an accident. It was a mission. Write it now. And leave a like if this resonates with you. Cayce revealed something about this generation that science still lacks the language to describe. In his 364 series, Archived and Verifiable, he said that souls who lived through the final days of Atlantis returned en masse in the 20th century. Bringing memories. Not personal memories. Collective memories. Planetary memories. The record of what worked, and what destroyed entire civilizations. That is why you have such intense reactions to certain events in the world. Why some news stories trigger an ancient sadness, a sadness that is not yours, but that you feel as your own. Why certain places make you cry for no apparent reason. You are not overreacting. You are remembering. Cayce said. Thoughts are things. And as they pass, so are the impressions left in what we call time and space. You are carrying impressions from other eras. Not as a burden. As a lesson. You remember the mistakes so as not to repeat them. And in 2026, when the world is repeating patterns you recognize, that memory is no coincidence. It's the reason you're here. Cayce said something about this generation that should be written on every mirror in the world. Don't feel bad if you've chosen the wrong path, turn around. Simple. But what precedes this teaching is what matters. He said that souls with the most difficult missions are subjected to the most extreme tests, not as punishment, but as proof that they are indestructible. Think about what you've survived. Families that broke apart. Systems that failed you. Health crises that had no name. Relationships that fell apart. Dark nights that lasted for years. And you're still here. Not in spite of all that. Because of all that. Cayce was explicit. Courage is facing one's own limitations. Wisdom is doing something about them. Every crisis you've gone through wasn't a detour from your mission. It was your mission. You needed to become indestructible because you would be standing during humanity's most fragile transition. And that transition, Cayce said, is now. So what changes in 2026 for those born between 1957 and 1977? Cayce described something he called the stabilization phase. Souls who have spent decades being tested, refined, broken, and rebuilt, reach a point where the work changes. It stops being about doing. It begins to be about being. He said. Make the world a better place because you lived in it. Not because you accomplished great things. Because you were present. Because you held the frequency when you could have given up. Because you were the stability that someone around you needed, even when you yourself were in chaos. In 2026, the world is accelerating in every direction. And what Cayce predicted would be most needed is not a leader. It is not a system. It is a presence. The presence of souls who have already walked through fire and know that fire does not destroy. It refines. You are that presence. Not by chance. By choice, made before you arrived here. So what does all this mean for you, now, in 2026? First, what you felt your whole life has a name. Not belonging completely. Seeing through systems. Carrying memories of pain that aren't yours. Cayce described this with surgical precision decades before you were born. This is no coincidence. It is documentation. Second, the suffering you have carried was not in vain. Every pattern you have broken in your lineage has reverberated in ways you will never fully measure. The healing you have initiated does not end with you. It continues in the generations to come. Third, your work now is no longer the same as before. Cayce was explicit, the souls of this generation, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, are entering the most important phase. Not of doing. Of being. Of holding the frequency. Of being the stability others need to find their way. You are not late. You haven't missed the timing. You are exactly where Cayce said you would be. Before I wrap up, I want you to do one thing. Go to the comments. And write the year you were born, followed by a phrase, what you broke, or what you carry. It can be simple. It can be one word. 1963, I broke the silence. 1971, I carry the memory. 1958, I'm still standing. Because when you write that, you're not just commenting on a video. You're acknowledging the mission you accepted before you arrived here. And I want you to read the other comments. Because you'll find your tribe. The people who felt the same. Who carried the same. Who survived the same. And who are standing, just like you, in 2026. I read every single comment. Without exception. So remember what Edgar Cayce said about those born between 1957 and 1977. The translators, who speak both languages when the world is forgetting one of them. The karma breakers, who entered trapped lineages and stopped what had lasted for centuries. The guardians of memory, who carry the record of what worked and what destroyed civilizations. The tested ones, who became indestructible because they had to be. You didn't come for glory. You came for impact. And the impact is happening right now. If this video resonated with you, leave a like. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay informed. Stay prepared. See you next time.